3 all new hairy dog stories, beginning with My Little Dog Scared Off a Werewolf. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I remember one winter when I was very young, when our family and friends were besieged by a big dogman for months. None of us had the nerve to stand up to the creature until the smallest one among us proved to be the bravest. We were a group of families set off in the woods by ourselves. There used to be more of a town there, but business moved elsewhere, and soon there were just the 5 families as we referred to ourselves. We were like our own little city-state. These days I hear everyone use the term doggo to affectionately refer to their pet canines. The first time I ever heard the word, though, it was the name of my little sister Andrea's pet dog. She had named him Doggy when he was a puppy, and when he later grew into an adult, she felt his name should change to Doggo, which to her sounded more grown up. But Doggo never got all that big. Even at his full adult size, he was still a little yappy dog. Doggo wasn't even allowed in the backyard alone, because he was small enough to dig under the fence like a rat or a mole and get away. Okay, remember that part, because it gets to be important later in my story. But now let's cut to the villain of this piece, which in this case is the North American upright walking canine, or the Dogman. When the Dogman first started coming around, he was a scavenger and a pest. He would knock over our garbage cans to eat what was inside. We got bear-proof cans, and then that Dogman started breaking into people's houses and stealing their food. One of the families told us that they were bringing groceries into the house from their car, and the Dogman grabbed a bag of meat and ran off with it. I didn't get to see that myself, but it sounded like they were saying it bit the bag and held it in its mouth as it ran away on its hind legs, leaping over hedges and other obstacles to get away before any of the humans had time to react at all. So, in other words, the Dogman was becoming a bigger and a bigger nuisance, and he was costing us money because we had to shore up our houses and garages to keep him from breaking in and stealing everything edible. We were also very intimidated by this creature. He was getting braver and braver, and my parents told us kids that it might attack a human sooner or later. They were especially concerned that it was getting more familiar with us and less frightened of retaliation. My sister cried every single night after that warning, convinced that the Dogman was going to break in and eat her while she slept. Eventually, our entire family slept in one room upstairs together with no windows in it. That was how scared we had all gotten of the creature. So one day, Andrea was walking around looking for her little doggo. She was going through the house and calling out to him. He would usually yap from wherever he was and come out happily running to her, but not on that day. Suddenly we could all hear Doggo yapping, but the sound was coming from outside, in front of the house. We ran to the windows and looked out, but none of us could believe what we were seeing. There was Doggo, all right. Somehow he had gotten out. He was standing on the street right in front of our house. He wasn't alone either. Standing there next to him, not up on his hind legs as usual, but now down on all fours, was the Dogman itself. His teeth were bared, and so were tiny little Doggos. It looked like we were about to see little Doggo meet his Waterloo, as they say. But Doggo was not ready to leave this world, and in fact he didn't even seem to realize that he might be in some sort of danger. When the big Dogman made an advance toward him, Doggo backed off in shock that someone would ever be so mean to him. Then he sort of got this indignant look on his face. He charged at the much larger Dogman, yapping and squealing like a chihuahua that someone stepped on the tail of. I swear to you, my entire family laughed at the reaction that came next. That Dogman was way bigger than little Doggo. In fact, he was bigger than my dad. But that Dogman almost leaped in the air when Doggo yapped and charged him. It was the funniest thing I got to see in my entire childhood. I remember seeing some old cartoon where an elephant was scared of a mouse, and this was like that. The dogman ran off on all fours with his tail literally between his legs, and my father ran outside to bring Doggo back in the house, before that dogman changed his mind and came back around. Except, that didn't ever happen. None of us ever saw that dogman again anymore. After a couple of months, it sunk in that Doggo had really chased the dogman away. It made us all feel a little bit ashamed. Maybe if we had stood up to the dogman ourselves earlier, it wouldn't have stolen so much food from us over that winter. Maybe the real villain of this story was not the dogman after all. Maybe the real villain was our own cowardice.
If you want a coloring book full of monstrous delight, then give this a look. It'll give you a fright. Scary stories, coloring book, werewolf coloring book. And just to make your mind explode, it's a digital download. All it costs is $2.09, and then you will be feeling fine. Coloring monsters today, hey, it's a coloring book, hooray. Okay, link is in the description.
I saw a werewolf playing with its pup. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I have had one single cryptid experience in my life, but I'm pretty certain I saw 2 cryptids in that one sighting. Let me just describe what happened to me in order and in as much detail as I can remember, and then you can tell me what it was that happened to me that early morning. When I first moved to this rural part of Nomo or northern Michigan, I used to get up early before heading to work and jog on this forest path behind my house. These days I work from home and I run on a treadmill in my bedroom, but in those days I would watch the light change in the morning as I ran, and the sun slowly rose in the sky. It was incredibly peaceful. Well, until the morning when I discovered that I was not the largest mammal in those woods. Not by a long shot. So let's jump straight to the sighting. Now, I didn't see the big one at first, and the one I did see was not scary looking. It was a little puppy barking and jumping around, playing with a chewed up old tennis ball. Yes, it was occasionally up on its hind legs, but it would flop over each time and land comedically backward or sideways. I had no idea it was anything other than a normal puppy dog. Seeing it playing with something man-made like that tennis ball also made it seem like someone's pet, as it played around in the same silly manner that a tame puppy might. As I was jogging around the rightward turn in the path, I expected to see the owner or owners of this cute little pup as I rounded the curve. Well, I guess in a sense that is exactly what happened. Except it wasn't a couple of kids or a nice old lady who were in charge of this little baby doggy. It was a big, upright, walking wolf-like creature who seemed angry at the tiny pup. It had its teeth bared, and it posed as though it were about to pounce on the puppy and tear it to tiny bits. But when it did pounce, it did so in a playful manner, and the puppy reacted not with terror, but with joy, returning the mock attack in kind. This was not a larger creature about to devour a smaller one. This was a parent playing with its offspring. This was an adult dogman training its pup in how to fight. But as all this information was flooding into my nervous system, the adult dogman noticed I was jogging closer and closer to it and to its pup. As its eyes locked onto mine, I noticed that it didn't seem too happy to see me getting so close to its offspring. As big as the creature was, it somehow made itself seem even bigger than that once it became aware of my presence. It loomed over me and took a step out into the lane toward me, effectively blocking my path. I could have tried to run around it, but it might have been able to grab me or maul me if I did that. So I did not do that. I sort of started running backward and sideways. I withdrew from the scene, heading back in the direction I had come in, but I did not risk looking away from those two creatures until they were well out of my sight. And once they were, believe me, I sprinted for home. The adult of the two, I don't know enough about canines to tell you if it was the mother or the father. I didn't notice its plumbing, let's just put it that way. But that was a real werewolf, as Linda Godfrey used to call him. That was a dogman, or else a dog lady. That puppy had a dog dad or a dog mom, I'm not sure which. And that's the only part of that story that I'm sure of.
It's a classic pullover, play with the scary stories, got it. It's a classic pullover, put it in a stand-up to go. Available in white, black, navy, gray, or pink. Link is in the description.
My little German Shepherd made friends with a dogman. Dear Scary Stories NYC. For a couple of years when I was a kid, my father and I lived illegally with our pet German Shepherd Grover in the Rat Lake Swamp area of Wisconsin. And when I say the area, I mean we basically lived in the swamp, except when we would get found out. And then we'd go on the run and find some other place to camp for a while. It wasn't illegal for us to be carrying camping equipment from one place to another, so we tried to limit our experiences with law enforcement to those times when our tents were in our backpacks and we were on the move. Because Dad didn't want to get found out, we would camp in some places that were even hard for the forest rangers to get to. In that way, we almost always managed to stay hidden. Unfortunately, one of the best hiding spots we ever found was also close to the home of this big dogman. He kept coming around and bothering us whenever Grover was taking a nap inside the tent. That dogman stole my trail mix one time, and I don't even think dogs like trail mix. In fact, I know they don't. So this was a big, bad dogman, like a werewolf kind of a beast. I saw him up on his hind legs, and he was 1.5 feet taller than I was. I saw him down on all fours, and he was still as tall as me, looking me directly in my eye. Yeah, we had a few run-ins with him, but in retrospect, all he actually did was scare us. We didn't know at the time that he wasn't going to try and eat us, though. Whenever I saw this creature, he looked unhappy that I was there. He looked hungry, too. He never seemed to be gone for too long. He was always haunting us while we camped in that part of the woods. So the advantage was that the rangers steered clear of that part of the forest, but the disadvantage was that we could clearly see why they did. So Grover the dog was not a young pup. He was an old fellow, and he was about 2 years from leaving us. None of us knew how old he was when he went, but he was old in dog years. So by this time, we had to walk around much of the day just to stay free. And Grover would jump inside a tent every time we pitched one. He'd fall asleep faster than any dog I'd ever known. Obviously, he was also a sound sleeper, considering he never woke up when that dogman came around to bother me and Dad. But one night, when we had caught some weird-looking kind of fish in the swamp, both Grover and the dogman came around sniffing the air at the same time, for the first time. One thing about Grover was that he was always lined up first for dinner. I guess this dogman figured the same thing, though, so the two of them practically bumped into each other before they even took notice of each other. At first, of course, the big one took an interest in the smaller one. I mean to say he took an interest in making sure that little dog didn't think he was going to be getting any of that weird little swamp fish that was cooking on the fire. I felt like I was going to be sick. Grover was the only reminder that Dad and I used to be part of a normal family, with a real house, and a real address, and all that stuff. There's really nothing wrong with being nomads if that's your choice, but We ran to the woods as our last chance for survival. It wasn't what we wanted to do. It was what we had to do. So I always wished we could get a place to live again before Grover's final days came. And we did manage to do that later on. But when I heard that big dogman that had been bothering me and my dad growling at little Grover, I nearly lost it. I didn't know what to do, and I stood up to run over there and intervene. Dad grabbed me by the arm and pulled me roughly back down. There was nothing I could do except watch, as that dogman smelled my little friend all over, like he was lunch. But then, out of nowhere, Grover started flipping out. He snapped back at the much larger dogman, and the dogman pulled back in absolute fear. That was the funniest thing I'd ever seen, and I still chuckle when I think about it. The big old dogman squeaked, and he ran away into the night, finally leaving us alone. And it was our little German shepherd Grover who chased the big beast off. Well, the next morning we awoke to find the dogman back in our camp. But this time he was pouncing around playing a dog game of some sort with Grover. The two of them were so excited to be playing this game, whatever it was. Grover seemed to be the alpha, and the dogman kept jumping and running away whenever Grover would chase him. It was kind of cute. It's a shame we didn't have any cameras or cell phones or anything like that in those days, although if we did, we would have sold them for food anyway. At any rate, that turned out to be a funny story when it could have been a tragic one. Grover just never considered that he might have been in danger. He was too big a personality for anyone to have for lunch. His belief in himself triumphed over reality itself and the hungry stomach of a large feral dogman. And that's the story of the time when my little German shepherd made friends with a dogman.
If I wear a spinny hat, will I look all hunky? Will I look like that handsome chap from that TV show, The Monkees? Everybody wants a woolen cat. The scary stories, beanie hat. Everybody knows it's a natural fact. The scary stories, beanie hat. Link is in this video's description if all goes according to plan. Available in black, which is like every color all at once, man.
Mr. Spinks, he's a monkey. Mr. Spinks, he's awful funky. Please join me in thanking tonight's executive producer, Mr. Spinks, the movie hosting monkey. Please subscribe to his channel, it's one of my favorites. Mr. Spinks gets to see our secret uncensored episodes, and so can you. Here to explain more is a small dark-furred cryptid named Henry. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button. Or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more.
scary story.